I believe that many of us are trying to perform our way into an identity that was already given to us. An identity God simply wants us to receive and walk in. And that's the reason I believe so many of us get stuck. You know the feeling. It's the subtle pressure to have all of the right answers in your Christian walk. It's sometimes a nagging feeling that if people knew your real doubts and struggles, they might pull away from you or not even think you're saved at all. It's the weariness of trying to live up to an identity that maybe you saw on a screen or maybe you saw in somebody's family instead of the one God designed for your spirit. And underneath it all is a quiet belief that we often carry. Maybe we can do just enough of the right things. Maybe we can do those things long enough to finally feel worthy of receiving goodness from the hand of God. All of this pressure, this weariness, it comes from the same root. It's this exhausting cycle of trying to perform our way into a sense of peace and rightness with God. But the problem isn't our performance, the problem is the identity we are performing from. And I know this cycle very intimately. For so long, performance was my greatest survival mechanism. Growing up, it was the currency I used to feel safe and worthy. As long as I perform well, especially in school and in friendships and other settings, I felt like I deserved the good things that came to me. But the time came when the Lord had to lovingly destroy that faulty foundation. He began to set a new one, a foundation that was not based on what I could do, but was anchored in the unshakable truth of who He designed me to be before the foundation of the world. And this pressure to perform isn't just a personal struggle. I feel like it's a kingdom issue. And the truth is, this is not a season for clones. I mean, there's really no season to be a clone. And when we operate as a clone, the body of Christ is handicapped. The specific wisdom that you carry remains unspoken. The compassion you have is never released. The creative solutions you were designed to build are never brought to life. The result is a body of Christ that is less powerful, less creative, and less able to meet the complex needs of the world around us. If we are going to be a solution to the real problems in the world, we must know who we are, whose we are, and what we have in our hands. So this brings us to the heart of the matter. What is it that our striving is really trying to earn? Is it a sense of connection? Is it a feeling of rightness with God? Deep down, I believe it is. But our performance gets this entire thing twisted, I think. If we look at Jesus, he was the ultimate example of a life lived in perfect connection with the Father. And I want to pause here because I know the thought can come up when we talk about Jesus as our example. I've heard people say, of course, Jesus was the perfect example. He was God. And they say this is proof that maybe we'll never measure up. But I think we miss the lessons when we think this way. I don't believe Jesus did these things just so we could admire him. He was modeling for us what it looks like to inherit and walk in sonship. He shows us a way of living to step into. So think about it. He was baptized at the beginning of his public ministry before he had performed one single miracle or even taught a single lesson. And at that moment, a voice from heaven declared, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased." Jesus' identity as the beloved son was established before his work ever began. He didn't work for the Father's approval, he worked from the Father's approval. And I feel like this is an incredible invitation for us. Through Christ, we are invited into that same relationship to be adopted as sons and daughters. We are invited to stop performing for an identity and to start resting in the one He has already given us. And this is a powerful shift in perspective. We are no longer striving to live the abundant life or achieve some type of cultural dream, let's say for those of us in the West, the American dream. Instead, our lives can finally flow from the abundance we already possess as children of the Most High God. But what happens when we don't live from that place of abundance? What does it look like when we are still caught in the performance trap trying to earn what has already been freely given? Let's look at the life of the Apostle Peter, who gives us a powerful picture of this very struggle. If anyone should have felt secure, it was him. He was in Jesus's inner circle. He was even given the name Rock, but his identity was still tangled up in what he could do. He was still performing. And this is a perfect example of trying to do the Lord's work with our own resources, particularly the work of loving and being loyal to Jesus. And by a charcoal fire, his performance crumbled. Peter learned in that moment that he could not do the Lord's work using his finite resources. There was not enough willpower in the world for him to not deny Jesus. His own strength had a limit, and he had found it. His identity as the strong one was utterly shattered. But then, by another charcoal fire after the resurrection, Jesus didn't ask about his performance at all. He went straight to the heart of the matter. Peter, do you love me? And in that moment, Peter's identity was restored. He stopped working for an identity and started resting in one, the one who is loved by Jesus. And this is a beautiful exchange. We are able to love God because he first loved us. We must first receive his love, and then we can truly give it back to him. Peter's story is a sobering picture of what happens when we operate from the performer mask. But let's not look at Brother Peter with a side eye, because we have all created our own versions of these masks. We will dive deeper into this at a later time, but for today, we are talking about becoming aware. And here are a few of the common masks we wear in our attempt to earn an identity. The performer mask, this one says, my worth comes from what I achieve. The good Christian mask, this one says, my worth comes from being seen as perfect. The victim mask, this one says, my worth is defined by what was done to me. And the chameleon mask, this one says, my worth comes from your approval of me. On the surface, these masks feel like they serve us. The performer gets approval, the good Christian fits in, the victim stays safe, and the chameleon keeps the peace. But the truth is, living behind a mask is a lonely and exhausting way to exist. They are problematic because they create a wall between us and God and between us and the people we love. We can't truly be known if we're constantly hiding, and we can't experience real connection if we're always performing, and we can't feel at peace if we're secretly afraid of being found out. In our relationship with God, it's like we're telling him, the original you made isn't good enough to be loved, so I'm presenting this edited version instead. It dishonors the designer ultimately and keeps us from the very connection we crave. This is the heart of the new focus of this publication moving forward. Redeeming Design. It's a space for the journey of taking off these masks, of disconnecting from false identities, and meeting Jesus at our own charcoal fire. It is the path to becoming the person you already are in God's heart, free, whole, and walking in peace that is not manufactured by your own effort. And I have come to believe a foundational truth. One of the greatest threats to the kingdom of darkness is a person that knows who they are, likes who they are, and trusts God with their life. That is the person that I want to be, and that is the community that I want to build so we can become this together. The Father will oversee our journey. This is just the beginning, and for today, I'll leave you with this. What mask have you been trying to perform in? Just noticing is the first step toward the freedom of receiving. God bless you, and I'll see you next week if it be the Lord's will.